Hey guys, we're here on my newly built desktop computer here, and I want to talk to you about managing your storage, which is something pretty important. With the advent of solid state drives, obviously everybody's putting solid state drives in their higher performing desktops or gaming oriented computers just because you get phenomenal performance out of it. Your response time is just unbelievably better. It's one of the best upgrades you can put into a computer now. But the problem is that the price per gigabyte is tremendously higher than mechanical drives. So, a way to give you the best of both worlds, a lot of people are putting in dual drives, so a solid state drive or flash drive for your boot drive and for games and other critical programs that you want running as fast as possible. And then for bulk storage, such as music, videos, files of other kinds, I'll put a larger mechanical drive in for just more price effectiveness. You can get now 2 terabyte plus drives for under $100. So that's a really great way to store tons and tons of information. If we come here to my Windows Explorer, we'll see I have a relatively small solid state drive. Now, when I built this computer, I wanted to focus my resources on things that would matter for performance, like getting a decent motherboard, nice graphics card, nice processor. And for the hard drives, I ended up using stuff I already had. I pulled this Samsung 840 Pro 128 gig drive out of an older laptop that I think I bought that drive about 2 years ago for that laptop. And then I had two very old 250 gigabyte mechanical drives just sitting on a shelf that these drives are honestly probably 6 years old. So they're not big and they're not terribly fast, but this combination here will give me what I need for the foreseeable future. And at some point, I'll end up replacing these things. I probably want to actually replace this one first. My goal is to get one of those new M.2 NVMe flash drives, hopefully maybe 512 gigabytes if I can afford that. And maybe prices will come down at some point in the near future, and I'll be able to make that happen. But for right now, I need to make this work, and I'm going to run into a problem, as you can see, pretty soon here. It's a brand new computer, and I'm already using half the drive, so I'm going to start facing issues where my C drive runs out of space. And I'm sure that's something that a lot of people with a similar configuration are going to have, especially if you get on Steam and do large Steam libraries, download a lot of stuff, or if you just enjoy trying out a lot of different games, you're eventually going to start pressing the constraints of your C drive. So there's couple things you can do to get around that. You can move games you don't use that frequently to your mechanical drive. That if you have large installs, some games can be 15 plus gigabytes, so you can free up quite a bit of space on your solid state drive by moving those. Problem is that most games or installed programs really don't move very gracefully. Yeah, you could go into program files and move the folder, but a lot of times it just won't work after that. You could try to dig through the registry and update all the applicable registry keys. You may or may not be able to get it to work. It's honestly a big hassle, and then if you ever have stability problems, you're going to always wonder, did I do something that is not working correctly? Did I cause that problem? So the clean solution is going to be to uninstall, reinstall. That can be a pain in the butt too, because you uninstall a game, you may lose your settings associated with it. Usually you wouldn't lose saved games because that's stored in your user folder, which is somewhere else. But your settings, like your graphics settings, things like that, that may have taken you some time to configure to be just perfect for your system, those tend to get lost. Plus, with modern games, a lot of them are download games, so it's not like you can just pop a CD in your computer and reinstall it. You're having to download that, which may take an hour or more and just waste a tremendous amount of bandwidth downloading something that you already had on your computer. So what I want to show you is a way to move something from one drive to another without having to do anything complicated at all, and it's just going to work. This is really graceful. It's a very clean, elegant solution. Basically, what we're going to do is put what's called a link on the C drive in place of the old folder. So we'll move the folder to another drive, and then we'll leave that link behind. Now, what is a link? Think of it like a shortcut, except instead of a shortcut which lives inside the Windows user interface and only works when you double click on it with the mouse, a link lives on the file system and will work in every scenario. Whether you're at a command prompt, you can use change directory into it and you'll get there just fine. You can programs can call it and they won't know the difference. They'll think that the program that they're calling is still at the location. They don't even realize they're transversing a link, so that works out really well. So let's go ahead and jump into that. The first thing we're going to need is a command prompt open that has admin rights. So even if your account has admin, even if it is an administrator account, you still have to open a admin command prompt, because with user account control, if you just open a command prompt, it doesn't have the full admin rights. So you need to choose this one that has admin. I'm on Windows 10. If you're running Windows 7, you have to do a slightly different approach. You could open your start menu and type command, and you'll get this command prompt here. Obviously, it'll look different on Windows 7, but you get the same thing. You could right-click on it and say Run as Administrator. That's how you get the command prompt with administrator privileges under Windows 7. So before I do anything, I want to show you something else real quick. I don't want to take too much time, but this is real important, and it's really easy to overlook. A lot of people will find a solution that works and not think about things like security. So I want to pull up the security settings of the program files directory. This is what Microsoft does by default. They have this series of access levels that allow the computer to do what it needs to as far as installing software, and keeps your account, even if you're an admin account, everything you do, unless you press yes on that screen that's asking for making changes on the computer, everything you do runs without admin rights. So the way this series of, it's called access control list, is set up, it's to prevent you from accidentally making changes to your own programs, which is important because if you accidentally download a script, you don't want that script to be able to corrupt your programs, install malware, and things like that. So we really do want this security to protect us. At the same time, we don't want to be too tight on security to where the program may not be able to run correctly, because a lot of times games will go into their data directories and add the user to have full rights to the data directory so that you can install patches and stuff without having to press that admin screen, or even non-administrators can install patches to the game. It just makes things a whole lot easier. So what we want to do is mimic the permissions that are here. No more, no less. We could go through and set these up one at a time. It's fairly tedious and boring to do that. It takes a lot of clicking, and it could be accident prone. So instead, we're going to use a command line utility called robocopy that allows us to specify a ton of stuff, really. If you do robocopy /question, you'll see just a bazillion options here. So you can spend time reading through all these, figuring out what they do. For now, I'm just going to show you what works well for this, and I'm going to put this in the comments after I post this video, so you don't have to write this down during the video. But I'm going to type robocopy, and then C drive /program. I'm going to tab over to program x86. Honestly, it doesn't matter which one we grab. I'm not going to copy the entire folder. What I'm going to do is copy just the root level, and you can see there's no actual files in here. It's only folders. So I'm going to copy this without recursing into the folders, which means it'll copy the root directory only. If there were files, it would copy the files too, but there aren't any, so it won't. I'm going to do a /sec option, which copies security information as well. So we're going to hit enter. That's going to run nearly instantly just because it didn't copy very much. You see it copied a total of one directory and one file. Now I'm going to show you what that file was here. If we go into the E drive, we're going to see there's our program files x86. Right click on it, go to security, and there's all the permissions that we wanted. If you had just created this by right-clicking and typing something in, I'll do test, you'll see that the permissions will be totally different. And these permissions specifically are giving authenticated users, which is basically everybody, modify rights. So that would mean that anything you or a script you accidentally downloaded from the internet, full access to modify this stuff. And that's just not what we want. So we didn't do that. You may notice this says program files x86, where in my command I had typed programs. Why is it different? In fact, if I come in here and do a directory listing, you'll see it's called programs here. Now this drives me crazy when these two don't line up. I don't mind cute little things like this down arrow or other icons Microsoft puts in to make the folders seem more friendly. But when Windows Explorer shows a name other than the true name, that doesn't sit right with me. Where that name is coming from is this one file that got copied. A lot of folders have a file you may see if you turn the hidden files feature on in Windows Explorer. You probably see desktop.ini a lot. It contains information about things like this down arrow or lying to you about this name. So what I'm going to do is just delete that. This is totally up to you. If you don't want to delete it, that's fine. So I'm just going to change into that directory. You could do this through Windows Explorer or through the command prompt. I'm going to do it through the command prompt just because I don't have the show hidden files feature turned on in Windows Explorer. So we're going to type delete desktop.ini. Since it is a system file, you have to add the attributes to allow it to delete a hidden system file. If you don't do that, it'll say the file's not found. And it deleted it. No response means it's deleted it. If it didn't work, you'd get something like this. So now if I come in here and hit F5, you'll see it shows the true name. Again, optional step, but I like that. The next thing we want to do is pick something to move. And I have Hearthstone installed on here, so I'll use that as an example. It's right there. It's a good size. It's 2 gigs, so that's definitely worth the time to move. I personally played this game reasonable amount, so I'm probably going to end up moving it back afterwards, but it's still a relatively quick demo that we can do. Let's see if Blizzard changed any of their security here. Okay, so they did. This is a good example because they have basically given everyone full access to this directory. And I'm sure they did that so that non-administrators can update the game. Again, I'm wanting to replicate everything that the individual vendors have decided to do because it made sense to them from a design point of view, so I'm just going to want to replicate that. I don't want to change or potentially break functionality in doing this. I want to make it very transparent. So again, instead of moving this folder, which when you use the Windows Explorer to move something, it will inherit the permissions of the place you move it to, so that would end up changing it. So again, we're going to come back to command prompt and move this using the command prompt, again with the robocopy utility. So we'll do C drive, program files. Again, you can just tab to get what you want. And when you do tab, it does put a close quote after any folder name that has a space. So just be aware, since we're going to continue to type after this, you have to backspace over that space, that quote, if I can speak correctly, and type Hearthstone. There we go, if I can spell it correctly. So robocopy Hearthstone, and then our target directory will be E drive. Case sensitive, it doesn't matter. The reason I typed the first time with a capital P is I wanted it to create that folder with a capital P. Now that it's already created, the case doesn't matter too much. All right, and again, we're going to do that sec option because we want to make sure we copy those permissions that I talked about. In this case, we do want to recursively move or copy all the folders as well. So the permission to do that would be S to include subdirectories, or potentially E, which includes all subdirectories, even empty ones. That would be my recommendation, because the vendor may have created empty directories for like future patches and stuff, and it's going to expect those to be there. It could potentially cause the game to crash if they're not. I'm actually going to take it one step further, and instead of either of those, I'm going to use this option, which will do exactly what it implies. It's going to remove it from the original location as it creates it on the new one. Press enter. Now this is going to take... Oh, wow, that was really fast. That was actually surprisingly fast. Okay, I lied to you guys. Apparently the move option still requires you to make it recursive. That's why it was so fast, because it only moved the root directory, didn't move anything else. So let's run it again with the E to do subfolders, including empty ones. There we go. That's going to copy about 2 gigs. I'm going to possibly trim this down. Oh, that was still relatively fast, so I don't need to bother editing that out. And now we can come over here and see the Hearthstone directory is completely gone. If we come to the E drive here, we'll now see in programs, there's Hearthstone. So obviously that's not enough. If we tried to launch the game now, it would fail because it thinks it's still on the C drive. I will stop and point out that if you try to move something and you get an error message that access is denied, what that would look like within robocopy is it'll start these 30-second countdowns, basically saying access denied, and it'll count down for 30 seconds and just keep retrying again over and over and over. If you get that, most likely the problem is either you forgot to open your command prompt with admin rights. If that's the case, you'll have to just close it, open it with admin rights, and do it again. Or the game may have some kind of like auto-updating service that is running. So you may have to come down here to your taskbar and kind of look around and see if there's something associated with that game that's still running. If there is, shut it down. I really don't recommend doing this with things that require system services. So definitely antivirus software, do not try this with. Things like Adobe Acrobat, probably not a good idea because it does require driver support. Most things are like Java or iTunes, things like that. Really, you're not going to free up much space because those are all relatively small installs. But iTunes, for example, has its auto-update service. It also has the Bonjour service and a few other things that run in the background. If you wanted to try to move it, hypothetically, you'd have to make sure you stop every single one of those services, which really could be a pain in the butt. You may even have to start the computer up into safe mode and move it in safe mode. You could use the same approach with the command prompt, but in safe mode, you'd be less likely to get that access denied error message. Anyway, let's go ahead and move forward with creating the link. Again, this is something you have to do from the command prompt. So we're going to go back here to our program files directory. In making this video, I'm going to just assume you kind of know a little bit about navigating through the command prompt, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about syntax. But the command here for making links is called make link, and we can do a /? To kind of see what our options are. You have 3 different types of links. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about what they all are. Symbolic link, which is what it creates by default, is essentially just like a shortcut except in the file system. Hard links and junctions are just a little bit deeper in the way they work. So in my opinion, that's preferable. The less interaction the computer has to do to make that link happen, the better. A hard link specifically lives inside of a file system, like literally lives there. So because of that, it can't cross file systems. So you could only create hard links from the C drive to the C drive, which doesn't help us in this case. So we're going to do something called a junction, which is almost as low level as a hard link, but does allow you to cross file systems. So we're going to do that /J. So we'll do make link. One thing, if you maybe have a tendency to type stuff incorrectly, you might want to copy the name here. So the first thing where it says link, that is what you want to call the link in the location you're in. So that's where we would paste, right-click to paste in a command prompt. And then target is where you're linking to. So in this case, it would be programs, and again, you can tab to complete here. And we're going to do our junction. And it'll give you a message there saying that's created it. Now if I do a directory listing, you'll see it here. The command prompt utility actually will tell you that this is a junction versus a directory. And I think if we look at it in Windows, we're going to see a small icon indicating that. Yeah, so it looks like it's a shortcut within Windows. But we can still click into it and get to it, and you see up here in our little breadcrumb area, it's still showing it as if it was on the C drive, even though it's clearly not. Also within command prompt, I could type cd Hearthstone. Everything here acts as if it's the command prompt. I mean, obviously it is a command prompt. Everything there acts as if it's still on the C drive. In fact, if I come in here to BattleNet, oh shoot, looks like Hearthstone is doing an update. Well, that's kind of botches my entire demonstration because I wanted to show you that nothing changed, but it was a relatively small update. Hopefully you can all see that there's no way it could have actually installed the entire game at that time, so clearly it was just patching the thing that I just moved. Still a little bit anticlimactic, but I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and there it is. No issues whatsoever.
Busy night, but there's always room for another.
All right, and I'm going to save you from seeing my rather uninteresting Hearthstone skills. So that is how you create a hard link. If you want to set it back to the way it was, that's very easy as well. And like I mentioned before, I'm probably going to do that just because I prefer to play it off of my solid state drive. You just have to first remove the link that's there. You can do that either by deleting the link in Windows Explorer, or you can delete it with the command prompt. There's nothing magic about removing a hard link. Or I didn't mean to say hard link. There's nothing magic about removing a junction. Hard links, actually, there are some interesting things that happen when you delete them, but we're not talking about that in this video. So in this case, I'm just going to delete it from the Windows Explorer interface. Then we need to move it back from the E drive back to the C drive. So we're going to use robocopy for that. Robocopy. Hearthstone to program files. Again, backspace over that close quote it created because of the space in program files. And I still have the word Hearthstone in the clipboard, so I can just click to create it. We need to add another close quote because otherwise it won't know that we've finished the path. Then to give it our parameters, again, we're moving security information. We're going to use the move parameter and the E that I realized last time we needed. Current directory is invalid. Okay, the reason we got that is you see here I'm currently in the Hearthstone directory, which we have deleted. So that is no longer a valid directory. When you get that, you can just do cd /, change to a different directory. And since I used for both of my parameters here, I use fully qualified paths, I can just hit the up button to bring that exact command back again, and it should work this time. There it goes. It ran relatively fast. I'm actually surprised those old mechanical drives are able to move 2 gigs of information that quickly. But there it is. There's Hearthstone back there. If we come back and look at our security, you see it's still got this everyone full access thing that Blizzard had set up. And if I were to try to start it, it would start again just fine. So that is the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave that in the comment section. If you have any other things you'd like to see talked about, just go ahead and put it there too. I'm definitely happy to make whatever how-to videos people are interested in, but this is one that I specifically have not seen a lot of people talk about, and it's such a great tool for managing multiple hard drive installations. Also, for those who use Steam, I know there's a lot of frustration that Steam allows you to create multiple libraries but doesn't allow you to move games between libraries. This exact same procedure can move your entire Steam library or individual titles from within the library, whichever way you want to do that. So yeah, have fun, and I will see you guys later.